Hey guys, this is Hydra from X back with another video, and in this video we're going to go over NVIDIA's big run back in 2023 to 2025. And yeah, we're just going to recap its setups, right? So the point of this video is we want to train our eyes. We want to study big winners like NVIDIA so that we can train our eyes to spot the next big winners in real time, right? So NVIDIA had a lot of opportunities within that 2-year span, and yeah, we're really going to deep dive here and break it down and try to find the best setups, right? And try to uh, basically better understand why these setups were so good, right? And what made NVIDIA stand out compared to a lot of other names. So yeah, let's break it down and let's get started. So back in 2023, NVIDIA kind of bottomed, right? So the start of 2023 is when the uptrend started, but in 2022 is when we actually bottomed. So let's take a look at the weekly chart. Um, and yeah, you can see that NVIDIA topped out in 2021 along with a lot of other names, right? And we kind of formed a very big downtrend or downtrend trend line here, right? And then we finally broke out here in late 2022. And then in 2023 is kind of when we really started the uptrend, right? So here is kind of when we broke the downtrend, but we want to wait for some sort of confirmation before we actually try to buy these names, right? Because you don't want to be bottom dipping. You want to be buying names that break out of their downtrend and then break out of their base, right? This is the first base that NVIDIA formed. Once it breaks out of that base is when the real uptrend really starts, right? So you don't need to always get the best end or the lowest entry. The best entry is always when the probabilities are in your favor, right? And that happens when you break out of the first base, because now you're kind of releasing the downside pressure or the overhead pressure, and you're starting to build your first uptrend. And that's when probabilities are at your back, right? So this is really when we want to be really focusing in on NVIDIA, right? So around that 19 level when it breaks that first base. So that's kind of the first good opportunity to get into NVIDIA. So let's take a look at the daily chart and really go bar by bar. So yeah, as I mentioned, that 19 level would be a great entry, and then within that base or within the uptrend, you have a lot of mini setups, right? So here's a mini flag setup, right? And then again, here's another mini flag setup, right? So you have a 3-bar flag, you break out, and then this one didn't end up working because it pulls back in. But yeah, and then here you have another gap up, and then here you have another mini base kinda, right? So when it breaks this base, that's kind of another setup that you could buy, right? So you could add on to your position here, and then here you kind of have some nice flag setups, right? Here's a nice flag, here's a nice flag, right? You break out, and then you consolidate here again, right? So this is another mini base breakout, right? So here again it's viable, and then here you have more flags forming, right? So these are all really good setups. And then here you have another flag forming, and then you have a big earnings gap up, right? So if you haven't been paying attention to NVIDIA now or before, you definitely have to be paying attention to it now, right? Because this is a monster earnings gap up. And yeah, let's see if we are close to the previous highs. So yeah, we are making new all-time highs here, right? So you definitely want to be watching this because this is the first name that made all-time highs coming out of that 2021 correction, right? So that was kind of a hint that a lot of institutions were loading up into NVIDIA when it was the first one to make new all-time highs. So NVIDIA formed a very nice flag here. This was an A+ setup, right? You make a big gap up and then you flag very nicely, and then you break out again. So that was a great setup. And then over here again, you have multiple opportunities, right? Here's a nice flag again, and then you break out. Mini flag here, and then you break out. So this is great for swing trading. And then here you have like a mini downtrend, and then you break out again, right? But here it gets very choppy, right? You're kind of like going nowhere. You're basing for quite some time. So bases are always good, right? Because the longer the base is, the stronger the breakout will be, right? So this one, we ended up basing for almost 6 months. maybe a little bit longer, and then we had a very, very powerful breakout, right? So a lot of opportunities within that breakout here, right? So you have a lot of mini flags. There's like a mini base breakout, right? Power higher, then again mini flag, you break out higher, and then we're getting very extended here, so these setups are not as good. And as you can see, we started correcting a little bit, but again, mini flags, right? And then you break out higher again on earnings, and then just so many flag setups within this uptrend, right? And then here we kind of top out at 140. We have a mini correction, and then we kind of form a flag here but doesn't break out. And then here we have some mini setups within this period, right? You have some downtrend breaks, some mini flags again, but this one doesn't trigger again. And then here's another flag, right? And then you try to get some breakouts, but they all end up failing, right? And then NVIDIA kind of enters a correction again. So yeah, I don't want to focus too much on the correction for now, right? I want to focus on studying these big winners, right? So NVIDIA, again, it went from $19 to $153, right? $19 is when we should first really be paying attention to it. And then, yeah, very, very nice uptrend. So let's take a look at the weekly chart, kind of recap what we just went through, right? So when you first break the downtrend, that's when you want to be paying attention to the name, right? So over here, this is just a name that I would be focusing on, not something that I would necessarily trade. Then once it breaks that first base, that's when I want my first real position, and that's when I want to really, really be focused in on it, right? So around that candle, that's when NVIDIA offered a first entry, right? Their first entry, and then within that uptrend, there were a lot of mini bases that you could have traded, or mini flags that you could have traded on the daily chart, and mini bases as well. So I drew out those flags on the daily chart, but on the weekly chart you can't really see it now. But yeah, I had a very nice breakout. It was the first name to make new all-time highs coming out of that 2021 correction. And then again here, you form a very nice base for 6 months, and then you have an insanely strong uptrend, and then again a mini base, and then you have a very, very strong uptrend again, all the way up to 140, and then you kind of top out, right? So NVIDIA is still kind of, it kind of topped out, but another way to look at it is that it's just kind of forming a very, very big base now, right? It's been basing for almost a year now. So NVIDIA, I still like this one, and I think it still has a lot of long-term potential, right? But it's going to be moving a lot slower than it did before because it's a much, much bigger name now. But overall, NVIDIA, I still like this one. I'm bullish on it. But that, yeah, besides that, or aside from that, NVIDIA offered many, many opportunities in its early stage run here, right? And that's what we want to be focusing in on. If we can learn how to if we can study big winners, learn how they move, learn how they trade, we can kind of spot the next big winners in real time, and that will help us a lot, right? So yeah, learning how to spot big winners is a key skill, and the best way to learn it is doing exactly what I just did, right? Going through old winners like NVIDIA and going through them bar by bar. I kind of skimmed over it pretty fast, but if you go through it bar by bar, you will get a better understanding, and you will be able to identify these big winners in real time in the future. But yeah, I hope that was helpful. Thank you guys for tuning in.
There's a reason why Xtrades is currently the fastest growing application on the market for sharing financial ideas. With over $2.5 million paid in the last 2 years to contributors, users are flocking to see what trades the top traders on the leaderboard are sharing in real time. If you're looking to grow your reputation as a trader on the internet or discuss your trading ideas with other reputable investors, click the link below and get connected with a trading mentor today, completely free of charge.